Ghosts, ghouls, and goblins have been starring in the movies since the dawn of cinema. From vampires and creature features to hauntings and slasher flicks, when it comes to horror movies, we love to be scared. Which leaves me with one question for my expert guest. Why?
I bid you welcome.
Hello, Vermont. Okay, one of the first movies I can remember seeing is Audrey Rose, a 1977 psychological horror drama with Anthony Hopkins. I wasn't supposed to be watching it. I snuck into the living room and watched from behind the couch, peeking through my fingers. And ever since, I have mostly been a huge baby about horror movies. But I am also fascinated by them, and I can't wait to delve into the darkness today with my guest. Todd McGowan is a philosopher, film scholar, and professor in the English department at UVM, where he is the director of film and television studies. He also hosts a podcast, Why Theory, and is the author of more than 15 books, including The Impossible David Lynch, about the work of the late director and screenwriter, celebrated for his surrealist approach to neo-noir, horror, and the psychological thriller. All fair game in our conversation today. Dr. McGowan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Okay, so I shared mine.
Okay.
What is your earliest memory of a horror movie?
Yeah, this brought back a trauma for me, so thanks for that.
I think they oftentimes do. I mean, I am still definitely psychologically scarred
So
from
I watched,
Audrey Rose.
this shows you the difference probably between, I was so scared that I didn't watch a horror movie until I was in high school. I watched a movie called Happy Birthday to Me, and I was doing a project for a high school class, and my mom was helping me, and she said, "Oh, there's this Glenn Ford movie on. Oh, that'll be great." And so it was a Glenn Ford, and it had the woman that was on Little House on the Prairie, and we thought, "Oh, it'll be fine." It's kind of a thriller, but no, it was a real horror movie. And it's all about gruesome. All these friends of hers get gruesomely killed.
Gruesomely murdered.
Yeah, and so but that was kind of fine. Like the gruesome, I think for you, the gruesome is bad, but for me, I can deal with the gruesome okay. But
you can. It's the gore. Gore is something that I'm definitely very sensitive to.
Yeah, gore doesn't bother me. It's more, for me, the supernatural thing. Because I think
supernatural I can do.
You can do. So
I can do
we're
supernatural.
completely different on that.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because everybody's taste in horror movies, what scares them, is totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, depending maybe upon your own indivial fears or, Okay, all right. So do you have a particular genre then within horror that you do like? I mean, is it the gruesome? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to tell you that it's the gruesome. So I would call it the French feminist horror. I know that seems a very specific genre.
I definitely am excited about this. French feminist horror.
Yeah, because so there's a couple of directors. So one woman's name is Coralie Forjat.
Okay.
And another woman's name is Julia Ducournau.
Okay.
And Julia Ducournau made this film called Raw. It's in French, it's Grave, but it's called Raw.
I know this movie, yes.
Yeah, and she goes to a...
This is fairly recent.
Fairly recent, like
last
20
10
teens.
years.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
yep.
And a young girl goes to a academy or something to become a veterinarian, and then it turns out she's a cannibal, basically. And so and she learns from her sister, and then she even eats her sister's finger for dinner one night. So it's very, and I showed that once. It's very disturbing. And then Coralie Forjat made The Substance with Demi Moore. Which was got a lot
body
of
horror.
Body horror.
Yeah.
So they're both.
Actually, that's a good question. What is body horror? Like, how would you describe body horror?
Well, I think it's concerned with the way in which the body is two things: fragmented, like it can be taken apart, and then that it can be penetrated. And I think that's a thing that I think when people don't like it, that's what they don't like, that my bodily integrity is not something that's certain, but can be damaged.
Too uncomfortable to watch because it feels too accessible.
Like
and
you
real.
can, if someone sees that woman eating the finger, right, and they think, oh, I could lose my finger, and that really, and unlike starfish, we don't grow our fingers back.
We haven't figured that one out.
Yeah, so I think that's a reason it's terrifying.
Okay, so do either of those two then rank as your favorite horror
to
film?
me,
or do you have another
The
favorite?
Substance is my favorite.
The Substance is your favorite.
Her earlier one called Revenge, if that was, I think it's a horror movie because it's a lot of bodily, really gross kind of bodily things, and it's a rape revenge film shot in the middle of the desert, And that would maybe, so one of those two films, but I think the substance is probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so here, I will share. My favorite probably still, and again, it's in that supernatural world, is The Changeling.
Oh,
with George
it's great.
Yeah, with George C. Scott.
Yeah.
And for me, so I've always loved ghosts,
Yeah.
and I'm very, very scared of ghosts, but it's a kind of scary that I can
can live
tolerate.
with.
I can live with it, yeah, because I don't actually believe that there will ever be a
See,
murdered
that-
child
that's
living in my attic.
I think that's the difference. Like, I
Yeah.
really kind of believe it. Whereas my body, like if I lose a part of it, I don't really care so much.
Oh,
So-
okay. See, and I do not want the body violation.
so
okay.
that's- yeah,
All right.
so-
So now, putting on your theory hat,
Yeah.
why do you think we love so much to be scared?
So it's interesting. Most of the important theorizing about horror has been done in a psychoanalytic or Freudian sense, and there's two basic ideas. So
Okay.
the first idea, and they come from, interestingly, two periods of Freud's own thought. The first idea is that horror allows, and it's kind of what we're talking about, horror allows us to confront what we've repressed in our ordinary life, right? So
I've repressed ghosts.
you've repressed ghosts, or the fact,
or the fact that I'm
no,
worried
I mean,
about
what?
body integrity. Yes.
All right,
okay,
body
yes,
integrity
okay.
for sure, or
Yes.
that I've repressed that that I'm going to die, and
Yes,
that this,
okay.
so that, sorry, and then I confront that. The other idea is this idea is a later idea of the death drive, that we're drawn to things that damage us or disturb us or make things problematic for us and cause us problems. And so that, I think,
Like having destructive tendencies?
yeah, like self-destructive,
Okay.
self-sabotaging,
Okay.
that kind of idea. And so I think horror really fits into that really well, because
Is it because it also, though, allows us to do that in a safe way?
right, I think that's, so the philosopher Immanuel Kant had this idea of the sublime, and he
Okay.
said, the sublime is we see this thing that's incredible, but
Yeah.
it's always from a safe distance. And so I think horror does fit into that. You
Almost like it creates a sense of awe?
yeah, like awe.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
exactly.
Well, so here's something else I'm curious about, because I know you kind of travel through the layers of film history
Yep.
in your courses. So different decades seem to have different flavors of horror
Yep.
that come out. So, like Alfred Hitchcock's, like thrillers
Yep.
in the post-war years.
Yep.
How do horror movies reflect our culture and our politics?
Yeah, I think that I don't think it's a one-to-one, like, we're in a certain political era and then we get a certain kind of thing, but I think it's a way to try to answer what the political, like there's a certain political
Something we're
problem.
grappling with.
Something that that's troubling to us. And then and art, I think, in general, but I think horror films in specific really try to address it. It's interesting today that the horror is probably is the dominant genre.
It is really surged back in again.
And I think there's a couple reasons. Like it speaks to, I think probably the main reason is cheap to make. So it really is interesting, because I think in the classical era, the Western had this function that the Western, they were very cheap to make, and they made like 5 to 7 a week. So it's incredible, and that's kind of
So
how
you can
many.
saturate the market.
Yeah, and it's kind of how many horror films are made, and it's because and all the, like, one of my kids wants to be a screenwriter, and they're writing horror films. Like that's what,
Yeah.
and our students are all writing horror films because they
Okay.
think that's where I'm gonna. They think I can make that myself, and it's gonna be easy to do this.
Well, and because then you can explore all of those different types of things that
Exactly.
scare you. And you said scaring is very personal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So I have to go back to Hitchcock, because you
Yeah.
teach a class on Hitchcock.
I have.
Do you? And he's a great master of the genre, the
Yeah.
thriller maybe more. Do you have a favorite Hitchcock film?
I do. So it's a little. So I think the right answer is Vertigo, but that is not.
That's not my answer
It's
either.
not my answer. My
Okay.
answer is this film from the mid-40s called, I think it's 46, Notorious.
Okay.
Yeah, with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman.
Well,
yeah.
Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, just to start with.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mine would be Rear Window.
Great choice.
Great show.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
thing too, because it's Jimmy Stewart.
It's Jimmy Stewart and Grace
Yeah.
Kelly, so you can't
I
really
know.
go wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so I mentioned your book on David Lynch.
Yep.
Okay. And so why do you think surrealism, which is part of like his film style, and horror go so well together?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's because they both are taking what is is just present for us and turning it a little bit, distorting it in order
Making
to
it even more uncomfortable.
making it more uncomfortable and letting us see it in a different way, so that we see the truth of what it is rather than just the guise that things appear into us.
So Blue Velvet, would that be a good Halloween?
Yeah, I
type
think
of,
Blue
you know,
Velvet
movie
is a
you might
good
wanna
one.
watch?
I mean, I think maybe, this is kind of crazy because it's his least surrealist film, but I think maybe Elephant Man is the most horror adjacent of his films. Yeah.
Kind of almost in the body horror.
It's almost a
category
body horror,
again.
right? Because
Yeah.
when you, and the way he does it is really interesting. It's a little Hitchcockian. You know how in Hitchcock he waits to show you certain things, like in Psycho, he waits till the end till you know who the killer is. But because in Elephant Man you don't see the John Merrick character until I think it's 35 minutes into the film, and then when he gets revealed, it's a shocking and kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
I remember when I didn't watch it as a kid, so it came out when I was a kid, and I was scared to watch it. I thought it'd be too scary.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. It is a disturbing.
So
one.
it's disturbing. Yeah.
Okay. We mentioned Freud earlier, and I know that you work a lot in the world of theory. Are there other theorists who you see influencing horror?
Yeah, I think the main one would be Karl Marx because it's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's and the one example I was thinking is the most Marxist theorizing about horror has been with the vampire film.
Okay.
Sorry. I just missed totally the song because I was thinking it's with the zombie film.
Zombie films. Okay.
So
Zombie
the
and capitalism, that
zombies
goes
are
together.
seen as the rise of the proletariat against, and the reason I was thinking of the vampire is the vampires are thought of as
Capitalists sucking your blood out.
Exactly. So that's the class. So the class struggle is kind of between zombies and vampires in the way of thinking about it. And so, and there's an episode, it's not movies, but of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Fabulous.
Where it's a great show.
Yes.
Where she goes underground and she fights off these, I don't know who, it's demons or something.
Yes.
And then she makes this thing over her head, and there's the lights come down and there's a shadow, and you can see it's a hammer and sickle. So it's an absolute direct
That's awesome.
Marxist illusion. Yeah.
Okay, so we're practically at last questions. For Halloween thrills, how about top 3 recommendations for horror movies?
Okay, so I'm going to go historically. So I think
Do it.
Jacques Tourneur's Cat People from the 1940s. It's the greatest of the classical horror, I think. And then from the mid period, I think there's this Georges Franju movie, Eyes Without a Face. It's French, Les Yeux Sans Visage.
Okay.
It's
Which I only know from the Billy Idol song, but yes.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Right. And I think he was actually alluding to that film. And then I think, the other ones, the French ones I mentioned already. So I would say Jordan Peele's Us. I think
that is such a great one.
I think that's the masterpiece. I think Get Out is really good, but I
Yeah.
think Us is the masterpiece.
And what did you think of Nope? Did you see Nope?
I'm a kind of a thumbs down on
Kind
Nope.
of a thumbs down?
Yeah.
Okay, but I liked that they brought aliens into it.
I like it, but I thought it was confused. I'm not really big on like films that are confused about what they want to say. I like a film have a good idea.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've given us a lot to work with for Halloween. You've got a full list now of movies that you might want to be watching. Get all of your Halloween thrills queued up, ready to go. Do you have a streaming service that you recommend particularly?
I don't know. I just use Prime.
Just use Prime. All right. Okay. Well, Dr. McGowan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been fantastic. As always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today, and thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.